Cat's Cradle here. It is a pickling day, and I'm starting my process for sweet pickles. It's about a 9-day process, and I start with beautiful pickling cucumbers from the garden. You can use regular table cucumbers if you want. I used those for years before I knew any better, but right now I've got pickling cucumbers. I like them kind of, this is, well, let's see. Yeah, this is a good size. This is even a good size if you want to make whole deals. This is perfect. I do have a lot. These are cucumbers that have been picked for almost a week, and I'll tell you a secret. If you put them in a large bowl with a good bit of water and put some ice on the top, you can keep them fresh and crisp and firm for over a week. So these have been waiting until I got some more. So I have those. These I've already sliced, and then Prepper A went out this morning and picked these just to be sure we got them all. By the way, this great colander, it is huge. It's a plastic colander, and I picked it up for 10 cents at a garage sale a couple of weeks ago. I love it because we can go out. It's very lightweight and easy for a child to handle. Prepper A can take it out into the garden and pick all the produce that morning and bring it inside, and we can just set this in my big sink and wash it out in the colander. We love it. 10 cents. So look for these kind of finds at yard sales. Now I am slicing most of my cucumbers, but the little ones like this, I'm going to leave just like this to make the little gherkins, and they will sit in the brine just like the slices, and then when I get ready to can them, I'll fish these out from among the slices and put them in a jar by themselves. So those little ones are gonna be jarred whole. So I'm going to show you. I bought this slicer. It's a kind of a mandolin, and I bought it about 15 years ago. I've used it a lot. I'm going to pass the camera off so I can show you how I use it. If you'll just focus right here. It has several attachments. This is the one I use most often. It's for slicing. If I put it on this side, it makes thin slices. You can see between the blade and the guide. And if I turn it over, this makes thick slices. And they're not incredibly thick, but they're perfect for pickles. This is incredibly sharp. Even after 15 years, it's never been sharpened, and it will take your finger off. You really should use, there's a little handle thing that you can guide down over it. I don't use it very often because I've done this so much. I'm pretty confident that I'm not going to hurt myself. So here's what I do. I take I just want you right here, okay? I am going to cut the first 3 slices off the blossom end because I don't want that in my pickles. It will make them soft. So I go down 1, 2, 3, and I just push them to the back. And I'm going to do one more on this one. There we go. That's nice and flat. And then I just begin slicing. And it goes very quickly. I'm conscious of where my fingers are. And when it starts getting close to the stem end, then I slow down and I go very cautiously. I advise you to use the guard if you have one of these. That's about as far as I may do one more slice. And that's about as far as I go. Okay, leaving that, putting that over here. And so here are my slices. These are perfect pickling slices. This pickle is just a perfect size. You can see that the seeds are still very tiny. The slices are all uniform. You can certainly cut your slices by hand. I did that for many years before I got this. So all these little scraps will go to the chickens. They'll go outside. I have so many cucumbers that I can reject a slice like this where I didn't get a full ring all around. I just throw that in the scrap pile, and here I go. So I just add these to my basket, and then I'll show you what happens next. All right, you'll pardon the sound of running water, but I have water filtering in my filter pitcher, and then I'm putting it in my boiling water kettle to get it really hot because that's the most efficient way I know to heat water. Those kettles, I really recommend them. They're about $12, and they heat water so quickly. And I've got to be honest with you, the way I use mine the most is in the winter when I'm washing dishes you know, I start with hot water from the tap, but if I go off for even a little while, that water gets cold, and so if I just put a couple of cups of water in that boiling water pitcher, heat them to boiling, and then put them in my soapy water, that soapy water is still usable, and I don't have to run 5 gallons of water down the drain trying to get hot water back to make my soapy water hot again. So I love that kettle. It'll bring a whole kettle of water to a boil in about 2 minutes. Very, very efficient. Here's a few things we have gotten out of the garden: some jalapenos, a zucchini, some bell peppers that I'm going to put on the dehydrator, and a beautiful bowl of tomatoes that we're going to use in a salad tonight. Pardon all the cards here. This is for my real professional studio lighting I have set up here. I recommend that you use the best quality ingredients you can when you're canning. Use purified water in your jars. Use the best fruit and vegetables you can find. Use quality canning salt as opposed to table salt. This is, let me get the can so you can see it here, or the jar, bottle rather. This is preserving and pickling salt by ball. You can use any kind of preserving and pickling salt you want, but it keeps your jars very clear instead of being cloudy, as opposed to using table salt. If the recipe says to boil water, because that's what's going to keep your food safe. Use the very best ingredients you can find. So I'm going to add this salt to the boiling water. I'll give you the proportions. When it comes to a boil, I'm going to put it over my pickles, and well, they're not pickles yet. I'm going to put it over my cucumbers, and I'll show you what I do after that. Okay, here's where we are. I have poured the boiling brine over the cucumbers. That's boiling water and salt. And I know I have enough, because if I press down on my cucumbers, I can submerge them. So I know that I have enough. If I press down on the cucumbers and the water doesn't come above them, then I know I don't have enough brine. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a plate over them, just about like that. I will try to get all the cucumbers to go under the plate, and then I will weight this, and probably what I will do is fill a canning jar with water and just set it right here on top of this, just to weight it down so water will come over the plate. Now, if this process looks familiar, it's the same way you start sauerkraut. It's salt and water. There's no vinegar in sauerkraut. It's just that the vegetable sours as it ferments in the salted water, and that's really what these pickles do as well. I'll get back to you tomorrow on day 2. I just thought I'd go ahead and show you what it looks like with the quart jar that I filled with water, and I set it on the plate so you can see the plate is submerged. There's a few little floating pickles, but they're surrounded by water, so they're not sticking up above the water, so I'm not worried about that. So I'm going to let it sleep overnight. Alright, here's a pickle update. You can see I have my pickles in a Dairy Queen bucket, and inside the pickles are in the bottom. I have this quart jar filled with water that's weighting them down. There's also a bowl that's turned upside down to keep the pickles submerged. Now, I have done all the brining kind of things. I've done the days of salted water, then clear water, then alum water, then clear water. I'll give you the whole recipe. Several days are involved. But today's the day that we actually put them in the vinegar. Now, the vinegar recipe is 1 quart of vinegar to X number amounts of the seasoning. So I'm not sure how many quarts of vinegar I need, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the plate off, and this clear water that's on them right now, I'm going to measure it in these quart jars to see how much vinegar I need to have these pickles be completely submerged in the vinegar, and then that way I'll know how to adjust my recipe. And when I get the vinegar and spices all boiled up and poured over them, I'll come back and show you. It'll look pretty much like this, but today's the vinegar day. Okay, here it is. I finished up 1 vinegar jug, and used, well, I had 2 vinegar jugs that were open. Ended up taking 3 quarts of vinegar. I measured the water as I poured it out, and that's how many it took. The pickles are floating on the top right now. I'm fogging up here. And then I'm going to put the plate on them to weigh them down, and then the quart jar filled with water on top of that. So it's got the cinnamon sticks in it, and the cloves, and celery seed, and I put a couple of pinches of ginger. It just smells divine. So for the next 3 days, I'm going to pour this vinegar and spices off, and reboil it, and pour it back on, and then they'll be ready to pickle, and I'll show you that when I get to that point. Katzcradul here. It's the last day of my sweet pickle making, and here are my pickles that are ready to go in jars. They smell wonderful. They taste wonderful. They're good to go. I'm just about to pull the jars out of the boiling water bath where they've been boiling for 20 minutes, so I know they're sterilized. Here's the brine that's boiling for the last time, because the brine has to be boiling when it goes onto the pickles in the hot jars. And then I'm going to return the jars back to the boiling water bath and give them a 10-minute soak in boiling water, and they will be done, and I'll show you how they look. The brine I strained out to catch some of the celery seeds. I didn't necessarily want all of that in my jars, but I did leave the cloves and cinnamon sticks to boil, and those will go in the jars. I'll show you how it looks when it's done. It's the day after canning my pickles, and I have taken all the rings off the jars, and I have washed down my jars, and now I'm ready to label them and put them in my pantry. The pickles, I must say, are beautiful. I made 7 pints and 2 half pints. And you can see this one looks different. The reason is this one was a fail. When I took the rings off and then I lift them all by hand by the lid to make sure it really is holding. When I lifted this one by the lid, the jar fell. It slipped down, which means the lid was loose. Now, sometimes, or before I was very experienced at doing this, when I was canning something like pickles, I would usually leave a little bit out so that I could put in the refrigerator and use right now. So I normally would have left like this much out and just put in the refrigerator. I don't do that anymore. I can everything, because if you've saved one out to put in the refrigerator and then you have a fail, then you've got 2 open jars of pickles in your refrigerator, and I just don't have space for that. So I can everything, and if there is a fail, then that one goes in the refrigerator. If there's not a fail, then I still can open up one of the jars and use it right away. It doesn't matter. But, I try never to have a fail, but something happened with this little one, and so I just put a refrigerator lid on it, and in the refrigerator it goes. It looks a little different because it's cold. It went in the refrigerator last night. These pickles, if you like a sweet pickle, this is not like any sweet pickle you've ever had. It is delicious. The spices in it, and by spices I'm not talking about hot spices, but the cinnamon and the celery seed, the cloves, and the ginger make the most delicious pickles. You can see there. Now here's the one where I put a lot of the little whole pickles in, but I didn't have enough for a whole jar, so I finished with slices on top. But you can see they are perfectly clear, and they are just wonderful. When I started this process, I hadn't made these pickles in years, and when I started the process, I'm like, why did I even start this? It takes so long to make these pickles, almost 9 days, I think. I'll have to go back and look at the recipe when I give it to you. But I'm like, oh, every day you have to deal with them, but it is worth it. It is so worth it. I'm going to open this little jar and I'm going to see if I can do it one-handed. I probably can't. I'm going to set this here for just 1 second. I'm going to unscrew the lid on this and let Prepper A try these pickles and tell you what she thinks. She's also holding a light over here for me. Do you want to try that and tell me what you think? How are they?
They're very, very good.
Yeah? What's the texture like?
They're crisp and crunchy.
Crisp and crunchy, that's right. The alum does that. I also had these pickles soaking in ice water for about a week before I pickled them. So I've really taken care of, I really took care of the cucumbers to have the very best pickles possible. So This is my grandmother's recipe. I could not find it. I was the pickle maker during my growing up years at home. I had a huge crock and just always made the pickles. I called my mother. She couldn't find the recipe. I knew I didn't have it. I called my sister and asked my sister if she would go to my mother's and painstakingly look through all the recipes, which she did. It wasn't there. So my last hope was that my uncle would have the recipe, and I emailed him, and he said he would look through them, although it'd take him a while to find out where my grandmother's recipes were. And anyway, he did it, bless his heart, and he found it, and he emailed it to me, and he said the recipe was written in her own handwriting, and it was just exactly like he remembered. All the ingredients were as he remembered, and he said if it came out good that I had to send him a jar of pickles. So Uncle Ed, the pickles will be on their way tomorrow, and I thank you so much, and I'm so glad to have the recipe again. I remember all over again why I love it. So Mimi, I know you're watching. These are your pickles, and I made them in your honor, and they're still fabulous. I hope you try this recipe if you like sweet pickles, because it really is awesome. Just one other thing, the Dairy Queen strawberry syrup bucket that I used in lieu of a crock worked great. It just did great. I wasn't sure how it would hold up to the heat pouring the boiling brine in, but it was terrific, and now I've labeled that bucket pickle bucket. So I will use that over and over again. Didn't have to go out and buy a $30 crock, which I'm so glad of. Anyway, give it a try. If you do, let me know how it comes out. I'll post the recipe below the video. Have a great day, guys. Bye.